Chapter 1. What's the Big Idea? I was walking down the street in San Diego, glancing out across the sunlit Pacific, dreaming of the fame and riches my original plays would bring. Suddenly, a man in a shabby suit coat and torn jeans rushed up and blocked my path. "Excuse me," I said as I tried to step around him. He was the one who should have yielded, of course, but I was in a mellow mood. Again, he leaped in front of me. "Have I got a deal for you?" he said, his voice as raspy as an old bass fiddle. I expected him to fling open his coat to show me a row of cheap watches pinned inside. Instead, he thrust out his hand, and I saw that he clutched a dozen glass tubes, each a foot long and transparent. He must have seen my puzzled expression. "They're ideas," he said. "Elusive, hard to pin down, but captured here forever in glass. Or at least till you break them open and use them." He edged closer and peered intently into my eyes. "How about it?" he asked. "Only a dime a dozen." Look, another good idea. Yep. Ideas are a dime a dozen, even easier to come by than buying them from a sleazy guy on the street. Easier, in fact. But that's impossible, you may think. Nah, the truth is that I come up with more ideas a month than I can use in a lifetime. As science fiction writer Orson Scott Card once said, everybody walks past 1,000-story ideas every day. I'm sure most of you don't believe me, but it's true. If we could sit down over a cup of coffee, I could give you one idea after another for as long as you like. The thing you need to do is, tip 3, expand your thinking. Be open to new ideas. You have to gear yourself to look for ideas. A member of the writing workshop I conducted for years once told me, "I always tell my ideas, get away. I don't want you. I already have more than I need. Those that don't go away are the good ones. Those are the ones I use." Tip 4. Do a little bit of introspection. What are you interested in? A play can be based on almost anything. For instance, there have been successful plays about quilting, waiting tables, and raising horses. Go ahead and do an internet search. Certainly, it wouldn't be very interesting to watch someone making a quilt or waiting on tables. It's what you do with the idea that counts. Maybe you work in an office. How to succeed in business without really trying. What about a play in which someone is stealing your company's important ideas? Or one by one killing the people who work there? Or what about writing a play about spelling bees? Seems far-fetched, huh? Then what about the 2012 musical, The 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee? Before you say no to any idea you have, think about it. You like history? Think of the mega-hit, Hamilton. You enjoy playing cards? Consider if men played cards as women do. Ideas really are all around you. But guess what? They really aren't worth anything, not even the proverbial dime, until you develop them. What bugs you the most? One of the things that most bothers me is bigotry. So I wrote a play called Dolled South, about green-eyed people hating those with blue eyes and vice versa. What about your knowledge and background? What was your college major? Physics, perhaps? Oops, that's already taken with Friedrich Dürrenmatt's The Physicists. I'm kidding, of course. Just as there can be thousands of songs about broken hearts, there can be many, many plays written about the sciences. We can come up with many ideas by examining our own lives. What has had a lasting effect on us? How do we feel about that? Is there anything unusual about our childhood? If so, what? Do we want others to know about this? For instance, I've written extensively about the little town where I grew up in Pennsylvania. In fact, I'm thinking of writing a play based on a short story I wrote years ago, The Closing of the Men. It's about the desperation people faced in light of the coal companies going out of business and how this affects a teenage boy and girl. What about your life do you wish were different? What would you want to change? How would you go about making the change? Tip 5. Look at the world around you. What do you care about? What do you think should be changed? What bothers you? What about inequities, maltreatment of minorities, our government, healthcare, corruption? Well, you can come up with many such ideas on your own. What are the things around you that you care about the most? Playwright Heinrich Ibsen often wrote about things he saw wrong with society. Ghosts about venereal disease, Pillars of Society about local politics. And these plays have been presented over and over and over again. Why did that restaurant 2 blocks away suddenly go out of business? You don't have to know the real reason. Use your imagination to figure out why. Maybe the mafia forced them out. Maybe the person in charge deliberately ran the place into the ground because he wanted revenge against the family who owned it. Why? That's for you to figure out. But how could you possibly write a play about something like this? Maybe it's about a person or group of people standing up to the mafia. Maybe it's about relationships gone bad. For instance, maybe the person in charge of the restaurant used to be close friends with the family, but now has a grudge against them. Let your imagination soar without censoring your thoughts. Why are the local roads deteriorating so much? Maybe the mayor and city council are siphoning all the money for road repairs into their own pockets. Again, use your imagination. Ask yourself why. Why? Why? What was good or bad about the places you've lived? What affects you most about those places? What effects did the environment have on you? Novelist, playwright, and poet Ray Bradbury certainly wrote a lot about his growing up years in such works as Dandelion Wine and Something Wicked This Way Comes. So did Laura Ingalls Wilder with her Little House series, which became successful later as a TV series. Base your play on someone you know. One of my favorite plays is Herb Gardner's Conversations with My Father. Think about favorite relatives, mentors, your parents and grandparents. What is unique about them? There have been many plays about families from Moss Hart and George S. Kaufman's You Can't Take It With You to Eugene O'Neill's play Long Day's Journey into Night, which is about his mother, father, brother, and himself. There are many other ways to come up with things that can form the basis for a play. People, places, objects, situations, all can set you to thinking. I used to hate exercising. Tip 6. Exercises can lead to ideas for a play. The character interview. This, of course, involves an interviewer and an interviewee, and is one of my favorite ways to come up with ideas. You can do this by yourself or with another person or persons. If you do it by yourself, you need to play both roles. If you do it with others, they can ask questions at random. Not only is this an easy exercise, but it can be fun. There are 4 rules. 1. You can't plan anything out beforehand. 2. You cannot answer as yourself, but only as an emerging character. 3. Everything you say must be consistent with what has gone before. For instance, you can't be both a child and middle-aged, or both tall and short. 4. The questions should be neutral. For example, where do you live? Do you have a job? Are you in school? How old are you? Avoid leading questions such as, how did it feel when you lost your job? What made you decide to become an architect? Why did you and your wife break up? If you, as the interviewee, bring up that you lost a job, that's fine. Then the interviewer can build on that. What made you lose the job? How did losing the job affect you? Most often, when I've done a character interview, I've played both roles, though I've also done it in classes I taught. Once you start, simply let the questions and answers flow. That's what I did with the following. Q. Who are you? A. Why do you want to know? Q. Just curious. A. You aren't going to try to arrest me or anything, are you? Q. Why would I do that? A. I'm out in the street, alone. It's about 2 a.m. Q. Why are you on the street? A. I can't take it anymore. I had to get off by myself and think. Q. About what? A. That I have to get a job or get out. That's what my dad said. Q. Your dad wants to kick you out? A. Wants me to quit school and go to work. Q. How old are you? A. 16. Old enough to quit. At least, that's what my dad said. Why does he want you to quit? A. Well, I want to go to college. Even got a scholarship, full tuition, the whole bit. But I have about 6 months till graduation. Q. Shouldn't you just be a junior? A. I skipped a grade. I did this on the spur of the moment, and you can do the same. If you don't like the character that develops, scrap it and start again. It's taken only a few minutes, but suppose you decide to go with what you've done. You already have a character and a situation, even what might be the major conflict of the play. Besides what's written, you can infer all sorts of things about the character. His relationship with another person, his father, the setting, the street, and later probably his home. Maybe other characters like his mother and other members of the family, a teacher maybe, and so on. If you want to continue with this character, you can develop scenes in which to put him, maybe starting with one between him and his father. What happens? Does the father kick him out? How does the mother react? If he's kicked out, what does he do? Does he try to stay in school? How does he do that? Or maybe you decide your central character will be the father. Why does he feel the way he does? What drives him? Why does he want his son to quit school? Maybe he's worried about money. Maybe he lost his job and doesn't want anyone to know. Maybe he believes the only way to get ahead is to work and education is of little value. Let's all get together soon. Now, develop another character through the interview method and put them together. Q. Hi, who are you? A. Me? You're asking me? Q. Yeah. A. Laughs humorlessly. I'm nobody. Q. Why do you say that? A. Because it's true. Q. You can't really believe that, can you? A. Ask my mum and dad. Q. What do you mean? A. They never wanted me. They hate me. Q. How old are you? A. I'm 15, I think. Not that it really matters. Q. You think you're 15? A. Yeah. Q. I don't understand. A. My wonderful parents never told me how old I am. Q. Did you go to school? A. For a while. Q. Couldn't you figure out your age by the grade you were in? A. I said I think I'm 15. Q. Where do you live? A. I'm nobody who lives nowhere. Q. What do you mean? I don't have a home. I'm on the street. Sleep where I can. Steal food when I can. Try to avoid the police. Q. What's your name? A. Terry. Terry Ann. Q. What would you change about your life? If you could. A. Laughs. You kidding me? What wouldn't I change? If you like this character, put her and the young man together in a logical scene, one where they easily could meet. Maybe it's on the street, maybe at a park. Let's call the boy Hank. Hank, mind if I sit down? Terry, I don't own the park. You can sit wherever you like. Hank, sitting on a bench across a walkway from Terry. You're out here awfully early in the morning. Terry, hey, if this is a come-on, I'm not interested. Hank, sorry, I don't mean to bother you. It's just, well, I've been walking around for hours. I'm tired. Terry, Why don't you go home? Hank, yeah, sure. Why don't I? Terry, did I say something wrong? Hank, not your problem. Terry, guess not. Hank, why are you out here so early? Terry, truth is, I got nowhere else to go. Okay, if you continue with the scene, maybe you can have them trade stories, sympathize with each other, decide they have to do something to change things, whatever. Now maybe you'll want to make Terry the central character, the protagonist. Or you can continue with Hank, or even make them both central to the action. Of course, if you aren't happy with her as a character, do another interview. Tip 7. Begin with a trait. Another way to begin to develop a character is to begin with a personality trait or a physical characteristic. Write down whatever first comes to mind, like self-centered or lazy. Now write a character sketch of either a self-centered or lazy person. Suppose you choose lazy. What comes to mind? First, a husband who is too lazy to keep a steady job. How could this lead to conflict? He doesn't support his family. They're going to lose their house. His wife has a low-paying job and also does all the cooking and cleaning at home as well as taking care of their 2 young kids. She's sick of the situation? What does she do about it? How does he respond? Tip 8. Begin with a combination of traits or conditions. A similar and maybe easier way to start is with a combination of traits. For instance, overweight, ambitious, proud, doting father, lazy. Get rid of any that don't seem to fit. For instance, ambitious and lazy don't seem to fit together, so eliminate one of them, and then just use your imagination. For example, Tim was overweight by nearly 30 pounds, at least judging by the charts. And he knew that wasn't good. People his age, 40, did have heart attacks. One of his co-workers even had a stroke, and he was 38. There just wasn't enough time. He loved his job. It was very important. But so was his family. In fact, his wife always kidded him about being such a doting father, overly proud of every little thing his kids accomplished. If he didn't know better, he'd even think his wife was jealous of all the attention he gave the kids. I decided I don't really like the character enough to put him into a play. I can see where there could be major conflict, health problems, problems with his wife about spending too much time at work and or with the kids, which she believes is stifling for them. But the character isn't the sort I feel I want to spend time with. Once more, it's a simple matter of thinking of different traits and coming up with another character. Tip 9. Begin with an object. You can begin with a photo, a painting, a document, or an object. For example, years ago after my aunt died, I was cleaning out her house and found an old baseball bat. My aunt and uncle didn't have kids, so I assumed the bat had belonged to my Uncle Bill when he was a boy. I knew he had quit school despite the fact that his mother was a teacher. Why did he quit, I asked myself. I didn't really know, but let my imagination take over. I know he was a big Pittsburgh Pirates fan. Maybe he quit because a Major League scout saw him play and told him that once he had matured physically, there'd be no stopping him. Okay. What position did he play? Pitcher, of course, the glamour position. He didn't want to wait for later, so he quit school with the idea of trying out for the Pirates. He didn't make it. The scout had been right. He hadn't fully developed physically, but the manager told him to wait a few years and then try again. Disappointed, he joined the army. He figured joining the military was a good way to pass the time, till he could play pro ball. Then disaster struck. God, Sally, it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Can you imagine? There I was, lying in this damn trench outside Koblenz, waiting for the rain to stop, hoping the Jerrys wouldn't discover us. All at once, there's this terrible explosion, light so bright it blinded me for an instant. I look over, and see my best buddy Frankie. Jesus, there was nothing left of him. Not enough left even to know he had once been a man, but not just any man. My best friend. Maybe the only real friend I've ever had. We'd hit it off right away. We had so much in common, both coming from Western PA. 2 peas in a pod. Except for my burning passion, baseball. At that time, Sally, the only 2 things I cared about were baseball and Frank. In that order, God help me. Oh, hell, of course I cared about my mom and my pop, but it was like they existed in another world. A world I sometimes thought wasn't real. Yet, I knew it was real. Because that world was the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Brooklyn Dodgers. It was Honus Wagner and Tinker and Chance. Oh, Jesus, Sally. It wasn't till then that I noticed my arm. My pitching arm. Cut to hell. Covered with blood. Like a piece of hacked up meat. The medics saved it. Got the bleeding stopped and they sent me to London. The whole damn way to London. Doctors and nurses did their best, but I'd never be a pitcher. Oh, God. People said I'd never be a pitcher. Can you understand what that felt like? All I could think about was that arm. What the hell kind of person was I anyhow, thinking only of that arm? Not of Frank, or the girl he was going to marry, or his mum and dad back in Wilkinsburg. Not that far away, you know. 20? 25 miles? And yet we meet on the other side of the world. Tip 10. Begin with 2 unrelated actions. Take 2 unrelated actions and figure out how you might tie them together. A 6-year-old boy playing in his front yard. B. A man hurrying up the street carrying a briefcase. C. Now create a scene involving the 2 of them. 1. The man stops suddenly. Bobby, is that you? Why is the man surprised to see his son? Maybe the mother has kidnapped him. This can at least suggest a plot. 2. The man is a pedophile. He sees no one around and grabs the boy. You can come up with many different ways to tie the 2 together. Tip 11. Begin with stream of consciousness writing. Just write whatever comes to mind. You may find the scene suggests characters and a plot, or maybe it doesn't. If not, as with other exercises, try again. You don't have much invested. Here's what I just came up with. I sat down on my computer with no ideas in mind. What would I write about? I hear one of my cats meowing, and I think that I wouldn't trade them for anything or any combination of things. And I wouldn't sell them for $1 million. What if there were a cat that people would want to buy for $1 million? Why was the cat worth so much? Well, it was a very rare breed. Now it's owned by this couple in their early 30s. They'd gotten it as a kitten at an animal shelter, not knowing it was worth all that money. Obviously, neither did the people at the shelter. Coincidentally, one evening the couple turned on the TV set and saw there was a documentary about cats. They saw that the featured cats looked just like theirs. It seemed there were very few of the breed left in the world, and cat breeders and wealthy people around the world were willing to pay up to $1 million for one of them. They had become status symbols for the people who owned them. The problem is that they're hard to breed. When people find out Rick and Hilda have the cat, everyone wants it. They receive all sorts of offers, and finally, threats. Why don't Rick and Hilda sell the cat? Maybe 2 reasons. They've fallen in love with the kitten and can't bear the thought of losing him. They also don't need the money. Later, I thought this could be the basis for a comedy. Chapter summary. Ideas are easy to come by. First, examine your own background and beliefs. Be open to new ideas around you. Try more artificial means of getting ideas, such as the character interview, choosing a random trait or combination of traits, using a particular object to start you thinking, begin with 2 unrelated actions, or do some stream of consciousness writing.